Okay, so our project idea is named FooDecisive, and we have 5 members in our team, which is Adam, Anish, Hui, Tay, and Z. And with the next slide, we can see the problem we're facing, which is people typically have difficulties when they face with a lot of options. They have difficulties on choosing what to eat, and that problem is called choice overload. According to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, the time that people spend on eating, drinking, and food preparation and cleanup are around an average of 2 hours per day. So we shouldn't add another 30 minutes to an hour to that 2 hours. Also, average American couples spend 132 hours a year deciding what to eat. So with our proposed idea of FooDecisive, we will try to help with that problem and hopefully eliminate that problem. The next, we will have objective.
Okay, so with our application, we're looking to first effectively provide a list of restaurants to users based on their preferences. Of course, there already has been existing work that has incorporated a recommender system to consider some preferences, but of course, our group wants to make improvements on that recommender system. This list of restaurants will be complemented with a map containing pinned restaurants to help users get an idea of distance. We'll also give users the option to view and save multiple lists in case they want to go back and reference the list that they have already made in the past. And this feature will require authentication. And overall, we want our application to be interactive. And so in the next couple of slides, we'll talk about a feature that will boost interactivity in our website.
So some of the technologies we're going to be using is React, which is a UI framework created by Facebook for the front end. And we're going to be developing the back end using Flask, mostly for convenience because of when we create a recommender system model, it's just easier to do it in Python, and Flask is written, we use Python and Flask. And to develop this model, we're going to be using TensorFlow as well as deploying it in the back end using Flask. For the database, we have MongoDB. This is just a JSON based database. So, and we're going to be storing things like, your user credentials for authentication and, the Yelp data, as well as other just auxiliary information from that data.
Okay, so we have some related work that we took a look at. First is the Wheel of Dinner, which is a really basic implementation. It doesn't take any preferences into account. It's just a wheel that you spin and it lands on a type of food, so it just decides totally randomly. And then next there are Yelp and TripAdvisor, and those are similar in that they both use collaborative filtering, but we think that we can improve on that filtering. In TripAdvisor, there are also some useful preferences that are missing. And restaurants are just one part of Yelp and TripAdvisor. So we want to make our app specifically restaurant focused. So the user's preferences will only indicate preferred restaurants. And another improvement we thought of was implementing a conversational chatbot that the user can ask to provide nearby restaurants, for example. And we think that will help boost interactivity that we mentioned earlier.
So basically what we're going to do is we're going to have a front end that's going to be interfacing with two APIs. We're going to have the Google Maps API for the pinned restaurants that we talked about before, and the Yelp Fusion API for the Yelp data that we're going to be retrieving. So the front end is going to have multiple pages, such as your login and registration page, our homepage, restaurant details, the preferences of the user, and the user can type that in. The favorite restaurants list, as well as that conversational chatbot that we were talking about. We're also going to be interfacing with the backend. We're just going to have a REST API, mostly for authentication purposes and other information like that. And we're also going to be developing and deploying a recommender system in the backend. And here are some of the schemas that I talked about before as well.
In designing this app, we will have a register login page and authenticate credentials. This homepage will provide a search bar to search restaurants. It will provide a list of top recommended restaurant personalized to user with a list of restaurant view. It will have an integrate chatbot to request for restaurant information. And when after performing a search, it will take a user to a detail page where they can enter their preference, and it will show. It will have an integrate Google Map to provide direction to given restaurant, and user will be able to view location, rating, genre, and contact info, and COVID-19 protocol in a restaurant.
So for our schedule, we went with mostly 2-week sprints. So we tried to choose tasks that we thought would take about 2 weeks. So first, for the first few, we're going to be doing some research, setting up the basic views and the skeleton, and then we're going to begin actually implementing some of the specific pages like the home page and the login page. And then we're going to be influencing some of those features we talked about earlier, like the chat bot and the Google Maps API. And finally, we're going to be doing some testing and polishing up the front end.
And so at the conclusion of our project, here are the things that we'll present regarding our project. So of course, we'll have the code that pertains to our website and our recommender system. We'll also have a document that explains our code. We'll have drawings and flowcharts that illustrate the user interface. We'll have the database schema and the initial data. And finally, we'll have a final report that thoroughly explains our project. If we have time, we hope to also have a research paper regarding our recommender system. And so that concludes our presentation, and thank you for your time.